Okay, so it's the top of the hour, so let's get started. Keep the questions coming on the chat. I'll be here. I'm gonna have the chat here on another window, so I'll be monitoring the chat. And this session is about how can you get Azure certified. And the idea is to know all about the Microsoft Azure certifications. I always like to start with some kind of a icebreaker here. So today I bring you this. If having the coffee in the morning, okay, is just doesn't work for you anymore, and if you're doing Azure stuff, try to delete, okay, a production resource group, because believe me that will really wake you up in the morning. And if it doesn't, I don't have nothing for you. Okay, I think there's nothing that will wake you up in the morning. Okay, so my name is Tiago. I'll be your speaker here for the next few minutes. I basically am an Azure architect and advisor. I work as an independent contractor. I also train people to get Azure certified. So I have hundreds of people in my classes every year. And I'm also international speaker in some events like today here on the Certification Saturday, and also in other events, like, for example, also Microsoft Ignite. I've been working with Azure for many, many years, more on the it's the only thing that I do since around like 2012, okay? I'm also an Azure MVP. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer, regional lead, and I'm also a member of the Microsoft Certification Council, which is basically a council of very smart people, and then me. I don't know why they put me there, but well, someone needs to complain about stuff, so that's me. And basically, we help Microsoft with feedback about the certification. So also, if you have feedback, hey, just send me the feedback. You have my emails there, my website, and also my my Twitter handler. So if you also want to follow me, I usually share stuff around Azure and around certifications in general. So basically, what is the agenda? Okay, the agenda will be what is Azure today? What is the status of thing about Azure today? Then we're going to talk about what are fundamentals, associate, expert, and specialty certifications. Then we have here the Azure core certifications. That's the topic, okay, today. Then I also bring here the data just because we're going to have basically a session about the data. So I really don't want, to give like a huge part of the presentation around the data, because someone is going to talk about that. So it really doesn't worth. We have other sessions that are just dedicated to that. But then, yes, some exam tips and some actions that you can take after this session. So let's start with Azure. Okay, what is Azure today? Yes, Azure is awesome. Yeah, for sure. But what is the status today? And the next slide that I have, I already showed this slide several times. And look, oof, my God, it's I get like huge feedback around it. And it's a slide with a map and a number. Okay, that's it. It's about who is the biggest cloud. Is it Azure? Is it AWS? What it is, etc. And look, there is no numbers that we can really compare in a fair amount. If you tell me what is cloud, I really like to call the cloud all of it. It will be the infrastructure as a service components. It will be the PaaS components. So it will be like virtual machines, web services. It will be search. It will be app services, SQL databases, all that stuff. But also SaaS, Office 365, Dynamics, Power Platform. So all of that, it's also part of the cloud, right? And so I want to compare all of it. And it's hard to compare all of it. So we don't have numbers. So I still say that Microsoft is the second. But to be honest, I don't care that much if it's the first, if it's the second, as long as it has all the services that I need for my customers. And as long, okay, as I have work, and I have tons of work, and everyone that works in the cloud, in the Azure microspace, there is huge amounts of stuff to be done, and there is not enough people. 68 Azure regions today. That is not data centers, it's regions, because some regions are, let me even say, probably the great majority of the regions today, they are way more than just one data center. Some of them, they are even more than three. We have 160,000 miles of fiber and subsea cable and a bunch of edge sites. Those edge sites, they run services also from the Azure space. And those edge sites, they are very, very much closer to you than what you think. Sometimes we have basically users that they live in countries where they don't have, okay, a region in their country. But probably they will have one of those edge sites in one of the major metropolitan areas where they live, okay? All of this, there is a private, okay, network. That's on the internet. It's a private network that Microsoft it owns, and it's one of the largest private networks in the world, that they can create a private connection from your company into Azure, and that basically connection can go up to 100 gigabits per second. That's like, wow, quite astonishing, right? Quite good. The things that, yeah, we can have with this. And if we want a map, everyone likes to show maps and things like this. This is just one of the maps that we have, and you can see, yeah, tons of regions around the world. And we can, if we zoom, okay, here into Europe, well, maybe we can see here like tons of basically regions for the major economies. If we go here to the Middle East, we also see here the Middle East getting some stuff. India with already 3 regions. Southeast Asia, which is basically Singapore. Then we have here China, Japan, and East Asia also with a bunch of it. And of course, let's not forget our friends from the States. I didn't give priority to this because they probably are asleep. So we probably don't have anyone from the States at this time in this call right now, but they also have, yeah, tons of stuff. And of course, our Brazilian friends too. So this is the status today. And the future is, yeah, let's have more regions and more regions in more countries so that we can do, and we can basically move workloads into those places, okay, that be under compliance. And this is important in this session. Why? Well, because to be totally honest, if you're from a country that has very strong compliance, like for example, Germany, and you don't have regions in your own country, it will be hard for your customers to want to move to Azure, for your company want to move to Azure. Sometimes they even want, but they cannot. And if they cannot, yeah, you probably will not have that much work in working with this service, but not with Azure, because now in Europe, most countries are covered, okay? So why Azure? Loads of demand, okay, from customers. Yeah, still look, some geos are still starting today. Sure, they are. Not going to lie to you. But if we talk about Europe and about United States, it is massive, the amount of work that we have that we cannot do. And we have people that they are not certified and they are not trained. They just don't yet are proficient with this, but they're still working on this because, well, there is no, okay, enough manpower to work with this, okay? And then that second bullet point, fun to work with. Yes, look, I have to say that I'm very, very lucky, and I couldn't do everything that I do if I didn't love my job. That is for sure. And I'm not saying that everyone needs to love what they do, but personally, I already had a job that I didn't like it, And I know how hard it is to get out of bed each morning and, put yourself in the car, drive to your company just because it's going to be another not a so good day because you just want to leave. And then, yeah, your day starts when you leave your job. My days start when I wake up because I really love what I do. And this constant change that we have in the cloud world, this constant need to learn new stuff, that's what I love in the cloud. I know not everyone likes the constant change and things like that. Well, to be totally honest, I will be very honest with you. It will not stop, at least in the next years, this constant change. The rhythm it's there. It's going to stay there. In a few years, I don't do predictions, to be honest. We already had very smart people doing predictions, and then they were totally wrong. So I know my place, and I don't do predictions, period. But like the next couple of years, the change will be constant. That's for sure. And that's what I love on this. And then, of course, look, when I do a job at work, let's imagine I'm migrating a customer, virtual machines from a customer. In 2-3 months, I have to do the same thing, sometimes even in the same customer, some more machines, or I have to do in another customer. And it's awesome because now we can do it in a different way. There is new services, okay? There is new features. And then, oh, yeah, look, we did this last time like this, but now we can do it better. We can do it faster. We can do it cheaper. And then we can even sometimes go to the other customer where we did this before, and like, hey, Mr. Customer, hey, look, we have this new feature. We want to implement this for you because, look, you're going to save X with this. And that's like one of the things that I really love, okay, in the cloud. And then, of course, pay for what you use. Oh my God, I had customers that they had those very large machines, okay? And look, and then we just saw basically traffic, load, and we're like, yeah, this doesn't go more than like 12, 13, 14%. Why do you guys have this machine? Sometimes was, yeah, just got a big ass machine so that we don't have any problems. I was like, budgets, then it's hard to get more compute capacity or to do an upgrade to the machines. I was like, okay, yeah. Or the traditional one, the more honest one, let's just say, it's like once a month, we have a lot of load and we want to provide a good user experience. Okay, that's a fair answer. And yeah, you have to have that very large machine or machines so that you respond to that peak. But that peak only happens once a month. With Azure, with cloud, yes, we can have all month just the bare minimum that you can have, that you need. And then, because that's a predictable load, we can then, scale this to more capacity and then basically have that there later on. So that's a big advantage that we have. So let's talk about certifications on Azure then. So this is like kind of the intro and how Azure is cool today. And I could be here talking about hours about all the cool stuff that we can do. But now let's talk about, certification. Why certification? So what happens is that, well, today we live in this world that we have devices and we have connectivity from everywhere, right? And we don't live in a disconnected world. So showing that you have a certification can really help you, okay, achieve a higher network, a higher connection, because you start to belong to a community. And that's like really important, because then you can start to share that you belong to that community with the badges on social networks. And yeah, recruiters will notice you. They will reach out for you. And they will say, hey, we have this opportunity here. Are you interested on this or not? And then yeah, it's totally up to you. Also, if you don't want to move from your company, but you're happy in your company, you're good there. Having a certification can really, okay, demonstrate that you have the skills to do other jobs within your company, okay? And so basically it can lead you to other positions in your company that it will be more challenging and will come with probably an increase in your salary, okay? And that's always nice. We like the challenge. We like to have a better salary for sure, okay? So this cloud connected world, the demand for skills, it's growing at the pace that the market, okay, it's not keeping up. And if you work in IT today, it's not that hard for you to start to work with Azure and other cloud solutions. If you're not working in IT, it's a little bit more challenging. I'm not going to lie. Don't believe on those programs that tell you that, hey, just come here for 2 weeks and you can do stuff, because you cannot. It will take you more than just 2 weeks, but you can do it, because we also didn't knew IT and we learn. Everyone can learn. And a lot of people that work in IT make, oh, IT, it's a very complex area. But it is not, okay? It is not. Everyone can do it, okay? You just need to put the effort on it, okay? Cool. And then, of course, this role-based certification creates new requirements for customers and partners, okay? And building those skills also will build confidence on you, okay? And then, of course, you can be more productive. You can bring new ideas into your company. And that's what I like. How does Microsoft builds certifications? So I think this is important for you guys to know so that you can understand how Microsoft just shows up and, oh, there's a new certification here. There's a team that does a job task analysis. They search the market and they see, oh, look, there is here a role, okay? And a role is like imagine a security administrator. That's a role. And what happens is that they take that, okay, and they basically go to the market. They get subject matter experts on that topic, and they used to put them in a room in Seattle, okay? Right now it's remote, of course, but during X number of days, they were there and they created a list, okay, which is basically this list here of skills that you need to know. This is called, we call this the OD, object domain. And it's like, for this, we need, this is the stuff that you need to know. Let's imagine the Azure administrator. Okay, hey, yeah, you need to know a little bit of Azure AD, virtual networks, peering networks, virtual machines, how to create, how to automate the creation, all of that. And then basically that's the output. Based on that output, Microsoft will create a digital skilling. It can create events, classroom certifications based from that OD. They also create an official course called the Microsoft Official Courseware that can be delivered by Microsoft certified trainers in-person events or remotely, but it's basically ILT, instructor-led training. Or they create the Microsoft Learn pots too, which are pretty good, and it's for you to do at your own pace, at your own time, okay? And then all of this, okay, can then lead you to take the exam and then pass on the exam. So there is this aligned learning experience, which is Microsoft Learn, training events, instructor-led training that is taught by Microsoft certified trainers. And then you have the last one, okay? And the last one that you have over there is when you get the certification, okay? So we have all of this. Talking about the certifications, okay? What kind of certifications, levels, categories do we have? So currently we have 4, which is, we kind of divided them in 3 groups, which is the fundamental group, the role base, and the specialities. So fundamentals is like Azure fundamentals, data fundamentals, AI fundamentals, okay? Stuff like that. And this is like, yeah, fundamental foundation skills. It's not where you should stop. That is for sure. It's the first step into the certification world. If you're not from totally that area, if you're not the IT area, this is a great certification for you. You just go and you take an Azure Fundamentals. It will give you a good overview on what is Azure, what are the potentials of Azure, some stuff on how to do some basic tasks on Azure. It's not a hard certification to take, and it's in reach with some effort, some investment in time from people that are not from the IT area. What about for people in the IT? Oh, I always recommend take the fundamentals first, especially if you never took a Microsoft certification, a Microsoft exam, or if you didn't took a Microsoft exam in the past years, because exams today are pretty different than what they were some years ago in terms of the format, etc. So I really like that people, yeah, go for the fundamentals, take the fundamentals. For people that work in the IT with some little effort, look, they can take and they can pass on a fundamentals exam. So, and this is a great foundation, a great start in your career. But then, look, of course, the role-based certifications here, we have the associate and the expert levels, the 2 stars and the 3 stars on the badges, okay? And yeah, they are specific, okay, to do something. And we're going to see some of them, like Azure Administrator, Azure Solutions Architect. So one is associate, the other one is already an expert certification. And then look, validates your technical knowledge. It's a technical certification. Is it easy to take? It's not. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to say, hey, yeah, just sit tomorrow on the exam and you pass. Because if you don't know that area, and if you sit on the exam, you probably will fail. Okay, not going to lie. You need to study, you need to prep, and that's where the fun of all this is. Okay, it's not for me, okay, taking the cert, yeah, it's nice. Sometimes we need it to do our jobs. Me as a Microsoft certified trainer, I need to have the certification in order to teach. That kind of makes sense, right? But what I like the most is not getting the certification, is the path to get the certification, the stuff that I learn. Okay, in order for me, okay, I'm prepped, I can take the exam, and then I sit on the exam, I pass on the exam. That's nice. That's the, okay, we have the cake, which is like all the knowledge that I get. Certification is the cherry on top of the cake. Then we have specialities, okay? Specialities, what are specialities? So there are some very specific requirements from the industry that Microsoft doesn't consider them. They need to be like a role-based associate or expert, but they think they are like something very specific, and so they create this specialty. And we already have 3 of them, which is the SAP, Azure SAP, Azure IoT, and now Azure Windows Virtual Desktops. Okay, that's the brand new one. So let's talk about Azure certifications. We currently have 6 Azure job role certifications. This is like the middle part over there, and those come on the Azure Administrator, Developer, Security Engineer, and the Azure Stack Operator. All of those here, they are associate, this first row. Second row here, we have the Solutions Architect and the DevOps, okay, Engineer, that they are on the expert. If you want to put this in another type of chart, well, you can put something like this here. As you can see, there's this fundamentals here. I put it here. Oh yeah, it's optional. You don't need to take it. Okay, yeah, sure. And then you have this Azure Administrator, Developer, in security, and Azure Stack, all in the associate level. In the expert level, we have the solutions architect and the DevOps. And then look, yeah, we have here now each one of the learning paths that we have for each one of them, okay? And for the three first ones, I put here some of the key points because they are usually the more popular, to be honest. What are the key points that you need to know? And in here, yeah, you know, cloud concepts, core Azure services, security, compliance, pricing, and support. So some of the key points that we can have on this will be, yeah, you need to understand the basic cloud concepts. What is basically IaaS, PaaS, SaaS? What is a public, private, and hybrid cloud model? Understand that the idea is to move from CapEx to operational expenditures. And then understanding some of the core Azure services, like what's a region, what's an availability zone, resource groups, ARM, virtual machines, what's a container, how do you run containers in Azure, what about networking, some like, oh, there's a VNet, and then we put some stuff there, there's databases, so some of those basic, okay, Azure services. And then, of course, let's not forget NSGs, so network security groups, application security groups. How can I do DDoS protection and how important that is, okay? Don't forget Azure Active Directory, okay? Azure security, policies, RBAC, logs, Azure Monitor, compliance, and then the support part, support plans, SLAs, and lifecycle in Azure. So as you can see, there is definitely some content over there, okay? And yeah, we need to have it, okay? Then we have the Azure Administrator. The Azure Administrator, we have those 5 categories there, which is understanding what are Azure subscriptions and resources, also a little bit of governance. We talk about Azure policies, we talk about management groups, role-based access control, so all of that. Storage solutions, so Azure Storage, file storage, blob storage, Azure File Sync, virtual machines and other compute areas like containers, virtual networks, and identity, basically Azure AD. And when we say here they talk about virtual networks, but I like to call this virtual networking because it's not just virtual networks, it's virtual networks, it's load balancers, a bunch of stuff, okay? VPN gateways, etc. Key points on this, yeah, you need to know Azure AD, how to create groups, how to create group users, multi-factor authentication, a little bit of Azure AD Connect is just to understand what it is. They don't talk about Azure AD Connect in this OD anymore, like deep like we used to. They removed that. And then, of course, understanding subscriptions, management groups, manage the consumption of Azure, policies, tags, our back already covered that. The part of the storage, Azure storage accounts, understanding import, export, service, data box, files, backup. So you see, there is like a lot of stuff in here that we need to know, okay? Same thing here for virtual machines, understanding stuff like managed disks versus unmanaged disks, virtual machine backups, so all of this. It is things that we need to know in order to pass this exam. And then some more just slides for this one. Containers, okay, app services, and then understanding virtual networking like networks, DNS, NSGs, load balancers, VPN gateways, express route. So all of this, it's a lot of content. I just wanted to show you all of this because it is literally loads and loads of content for the AZ-104. It's a big exam. And this is why, look, you really need to know that very, very well. You don't need to know, like, look, Windows Server administration. That's not required. If you have them, oh, great, for sure. Linux administration, again, you don't need to have very deep experience, but hey, how to do a connection to a server, how to install some stuff in a Linux machine. And if you don't know, hey, take the opportunity now that you're working with this to learn also a little bit also about those points, right? So that is the idea behind all of this, okay? And then other areas, and we really need to know all of this pretty well. Key points that we have in here. And by the way, if you guys have questions, okay, please keep them coming. Okay, happy to answer to some of your questions. Okay, on the developer, going here one slide back. This is a very, let's just say, special certification because loads of people think that they really need to learn how to code in this certification. The answer is no. It's no. This is a certification for developers to understanding how to work with Azure services. So it's going to be like a 50-50, like understanding the services, etc. And then, hey, let's code using the SDKs to get there. And sometimes people are like, oh, but I'm not Microsoft developer. I work with Python or I work with Java. There's not a problem, okay? Because the stuff that we do here, we usually use C#, ASP.NET Core and things like that. But it's not that different from other languages today. And to be totally honest, the usage of the SDKs, etc., that's what matters. And that is the names and all of that is the same in every single language. So the knowledge that you get, and then you basically learn how to do this in C#, but you can then bring that knowledge into your Java application or into your Python application. And it's going to be very similar. An example, connecting to a storage account. The name of the objects are the same in every SDK. They don't change them because it's Python. They don't change it because it's Java. It's exactly the same. So it's if you know that, that's what we want you to learn to take the certification. And then, yeah, they needed to choose one language to be on the exam, in the questions, etc. And that's it. Usually it is C#, it is ASP.NET. Okay, that's going to be the language because that's the one that Microsoft can use without being sued or something like that, without asking permissions and stuff like that. So that's why they use that one. Okay, some of very tiny experience here of some of the key points in here: machines, batch, containers, Kubernetes, web apps, mobile apps, API apps, Azure Functions, tables, Cosmos, SQL databases, blob storage. Then when we say security here, we're talking about Azure AD, we're talking about multi-factor authentication, building applications that can use Azure AD as their authentication provider. So using protocols like OAuth, OpenID, okay, claims-based access control, Azure Key Vault. My God, I love Key Vault. It's like one of my favorite services today. It's pretty cool. And then the monitoring part, talking about Azure CDN, Redis Cache, application insights. Okay, and then we need to know how to connect with third-party services. And by the way, I need to update this slide because this year, let me see, there's no more Logic Apps and there is no more notification hubs in the exam. They just released it last week. They removed those 2 bits last week from this exam. This was one of the updates that we got. But the other stuff is there and we need to know it. Okay, and this is it. Okay, we also have others like the DevOps. The DevOps is a special certification. So this one here is basically, I have this exam, but if you just pass on that exam, you don't get the certification. This is the only one that has a prereq. What is the prereq? You need to be Azure Administrator or Azure Developer. Okay, and now some people, they're like, oh, but Tiago, you told us that to get the Azure Administrator, I need to do the AZ 104. And I'm like, yeah. But Tiago, I'm an Azure administrator, but I took that with the AZ 103. So do I need to take the 104 plus the 400 to get DevOps? The answer is no. We are not talking about here about the exam. We're talking about the certification. As long as you have the cert, you're good. Doesn't matter how you got the certification, okay? It really doesn't matter. For example, the first time that I got my Azure DevOps Engineer certification, I had taken an exam that was called AZ-102 because I already had the previous generation of non-role based certifications, and we had a transition exam back then, and I took that. And it's not that many people that have that exam, but it doesn't matter the exam. What matters is you have that certification, and that's what matters, okay? But yeah, we have this year, which is required, but it is one or the other. You don't need to have both, okay? So it's one or the other. Then we have the 500, which is the security bits of this, okay? So this is pretty cool. I was teaching this week, by the way. And it was basically identity and access. We talk and we go deep into Azure AD and Azure AD-P2, and then basically AD Connect and things like that. We talk about platform protection, so how to protect containers, how to protect virtual machines and VNets and all of that, and SQL databases, you name it. So that there's a lot of topics there, storage accounts and things like that. And then security operations, where we talk about like Azure Monitor, Security Center, and a little bit, okay, about Sentinel. Unfortunately, I think this exam should add more, a little bit more of Sentinel, but it doesn't. Then we have the AZ600. That is the new one. Just got out of beta, I think it was a couple of days ago, which is about Azure Stack. And I think I have this the wrong name over there. But basically is basically an exam that is about Azure Stack, which is kind of the, hey, let's run this, okay, let's run this on-prem. And when it's a product to run Azure, kind of hybrid cloud and run Azure on-prem. It's a great, okay, it's a great product. The only thing that I want to call your attention to this is, look, be careful with prepping for this. You have to have some resources, okay, in your in like an Azure subscription to build a large machine, because Azure Stack for development and training too at least requires you to have a machine. I think it's with 96 gigs of RAM, but it's like 100 and something is the recommended size. It's a machine that is quite heavy, takes a lot of time to load and things like that. So having this, like a machine this on-prem, hey, that's even better, because then you can really try, how to build this on-prem and things like that. But it really requires you to have a lab machine that, yeah, it's really powerful. So yeah, get the resources, put yourself, when you decide to take this, put yourself aside some time in the beginning to, yeah, let me grab, okay, a machine so that I can like create some labs and do some experiments with this, because yeah, you're going to need that, okay? And then the last one is the specialty certifications. So like I said, we have one for SAP. That's an exam, and I don't have the pots for this ones, okay? But this one here is it's a very special exam, to be honest. I took this one because in my consulting, basically I help a company moving a large workload from SAP into Azure. And I was like, yeah, I did this project, let me get the certification. And the certification is definitely not that easy, to be totally honest, because it really requires you to know SAP in a very overview part, and then very well Azure. Okay. And it's not a profile that it's easy to get. And studying for this, it might be a little bit trouble because you really need to know Azure and things like that. Sorry, SAP. What are the services that you have in SAP? What they are for? What kind of machines do they need? What kind of interconnection they need with each other? And things like this, so that you can basically plan the workloads. No one is going to tell you like, oh, how can we do this in SAP, in like an SAP interface and things like that? No way. But it's more on how can you run that in Azure? How should you plan and design your stuff in Azure? Then we have the Azure IoT, that I think the name says it all. So we have a bunch of IoT infrastructure and we want to run it in Azure, and how can we do it? And like the SAP, look, it's always nice that you already have some experience with IoT first before you take this. And the last one, a very popular product nowadays with this pandemic, and was one of the products that grow the fastest ever in Azure. It's called Windows Virtual Desktops. And this is the specialty certification for that. So it's a very, very, very special one. Okay, so I'm already, this is still in beta, this one. I already have, I don't have that much feedback on that, okay, because I'm starting to prepare for taking that exam. But it's something that I already do for my customers, so it shouldn't be that hard to take when you already have some experience. You just need to learn, the rest of the bits, and you should be good. Yeah, so the presentation will be shared, okay, along with the recording. At least I'm going to share. If for some reason you don't get the presentation, reach out to me and I will send the presentation, no problem. Okay. What about data? We have the Azure Data Science, okay, DP 100, okay, designing and implemented data science solutions. That's the one for you to get the data science associate. Then we also have this one, which is the data engineer. And this is the old part, DP 200 and 201. They're still live. You need to get an associate. That's the only, okay, associate certification that you need to in the Azure world, but not for long. So DP 200 and 201, they are retiring. And there's this DP 203 that's going to replace them. But this exam is still today in beta, but it should be removed from beta in some time. So the exams, they start in beta, for example, and why Microsoft does that. So in beta, they get feedback and they analyze all the exams in order to see, hey, this question is working, that question is not working, so that they are still able to do some fine tuning. Why they see one question, why this question is not working, right? So there are SMEs, they look at the question and they are going to see, oh, look, yeah, the way that we are doing the question is probably not the more clear. So we need to clear up a little bit the question. They also, in the end of the exams, you also have some time where you can provide feedback about individual questions. And then they read all those comments about that question. And they are like, yeah, look, see here, people are complaining about this bit. And you look at the question like, yeah, they might be right. So we have like some reports about that. So yeah, let's take that and let's put the question a little bit more clear. Or it can happen, it's rare, but it can even happen that, look, this question, we can't recover the question. Let's just kill the question. And they kill the question, okay? they remove that question from the pool. That question is no longer in the pool. So it's this kind of work that they do. Similar to the other one, we have the AI engineer associate that we had the AI 100. You get the associate level, but this is also retiring. Okay, same date, 30th of June, and there is a new one which is called 102, and it's the 102 that is going to replace that. It's an exam that I'm not that much in the AI area. I don't even have this certification, to be honest. It's not what I do, but basically I think it's going to be, at least the feedback that I get is the exam that basically has a bunch of stuff that are more deep than the AI 100. Okay, at least by the topics that they have on the object domain, the OD. Remember that we talked about that in the beginning. So with all of this, how do you prep? Okay, so the first things that I do is I go to the exam page. Let's just take this. Let's just change here the screen. Okay, and this is the way that I prep. So docs.microsoft.com learn. Okay, and then you get to the Microsoft Learn page. Then I go to certifications and I go to browse. Okay, browse certifications. Let me just take this out of the way. And then when you look at the certifications in here, hey, I'm just going to search for the certification or for the exam that I want. And let's imagine I want to take the AZ 104. So I just search AZ 104. There you go. It shows me the certification. It shows me the exam. If you don't know the exam, you can always see here. This is the certification, blah, blah. They have here some text about the certification. And then they have here, hey, take one exam, earn the certification. See here? So that's what I want. One exam and earn the certification. Look, it's impossible to be more clear and easier than this, okay? Let's close this. Let's see the exam page. Let's put this bigger. So this is the exam page, okay? And they talk about here, oh, there's a note here. It was updated on March 26th, okay? Oh, so if you're already prepping and now you get here to just basically search something, and you're like, oh, this was updated. Oh, okay. Let's put that in the parking lot for now. Then you talk about here, blah, 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 blah. Oh, skills measured. And they talk about a bunch of skills in here. But as you can see, manage Azure identities and governance. Well, I think this is what Azure AD, but in which, because Azure AD is big, right? What kind of stuff do I need to know? I don't know, right? This is why we have this download exam skills outline. And when you click here, look, you get a PDF that is 9 pages. And you have, let's just go to the basically, yeah, let's use this part here. Sorry. And then you have here, managed Azure identities and governance. And you have this subcategory with these bullet points that look, this is, sorry, it is super clear what you need to have in here. And then you have like manage role-based control, more bullet points. And then you have manage subscriptions and governance, more bullet points. And you just need to know, and you just need to learn that is, oh, configuring Azure policies. And usually what I ask people to do is, let's imagine that, look, let's talk about configuring Azure policies. Like, hey, just go to the browser, just search for this. And look, there is always Microsoft Docs link, okay, about that. And you have, what's an Azure policy? Overview, understanding, blah, 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 da, 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 da. Ooh, a video. Even as a video. Loads of stuff in here. And then you have your quick starts. See here? Assigning a policy using the Azure portal. Oh, there you go. And you can take this quick starts. It's like doing like a lab. Put this in one screen. get the Azure portal, do this, or do it with CLI, or do it with Azure PowerShell. And look, PowerShell or CLI, you have like here, oh, register the provider, oh, create a policy assignment. You can copy this. Then you can put this into your repository that you create for demos and things like that, or for exercises, see? And this is the way that I personally study for an exam. What I do is I create, when I need to study, I create a bunch of links for this kind of stuff. And then if you want, you can reach out to my website. And in my website, I have these Azure study guides here. And under this, I have like, oh, AZ104, see? And if you click here, I already have, okay, links for each one of those bullet points that you have. Create users and groups, okay? Or let's go for the governance. Configuring Azure policies. And if you click here, you see, what is an Azure policy? This was the one that I showed you, because I just did this to create this. Quick start, create a policy assignment to blah, 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 see? And it's here. The two that I showed you are in here in links. So, hey, just grab this if you want, and you should be prepped for the exam, okay? So there you go, you have this. And this is the way that I personally prep for the exam. Then, because there are changes, you have here comparison table. So this is before 26 and after 26, and they tell you this is how it was, this is how it is now. Okay, and you have to read this if you are already studying. Okay, and you're like, oh, what did change? You have to find the changes in here. Okay. There you go. So which is presentation I'm doing? I'm doing this. So what can I do more with this? Microsoft Learn. We'll see that one too. Classroom training. So we can also sign up for a course that is instructor-led training that is taught by Microsoft certified trainers, and you have that experience. Practice tests. Do practice tests. Measure up. Okay, there's also Wiz Labs, that's pretty good. And one or the other, hey, just grab some practice tests, and like Udemy, LinkedIn Learning, Pluralsight, loads of them. They also have practice tests and things like that, so you can also take that. Or look, you can't afford paying for LinkedIn Learning. You can't afford paying for Pluralsight. Sure, go on YouTube. There is loads of free content sometimes on YouTube that some professionals want to share for free, some stuff, and they have there. Watch out for the quality, and more important, for the date of the video, because sometimes I have videos that were done like 5 years ago, that if you watch them today, I'm sure you're not going to learn nothing that relevant anymore, right? Because it's cloud. 5 years in the cloud world is an eternity, okay? But you have this, and let's just see the Microsoft Learn stuff. So if I go here to my browser again, and let's go back, okay? So I'm here again, Skills Manager, I downloaded it, but there's like 2 ways to prepare. See, the online free, and you have here learning paths, okay, for this. And look, you just need to click here. This is like a prereqs for the AZ104. And you have like here some stuff, and you're like, oh yeah, start. And you have like tons of data in here, and you can read this, and it will take a long time, to be honest, to read this, because there's like loads and loads of stuff in here, but it's amazing the quality that you have here. But like I said, this is text-based. Then we have some sandboxes where you can try stuff out. There are people that they prefer, okay, this instructor-led paid option, where you can sign up for this class. This is a course. This is the AZ104 T00A. It's a 4-day class, okay? And then you can basically, you have here some of the places where you can take this, okay? And you have to pay the sign-up fee, but it's like 4 days. You're dedicated just to this. Sometimes you can even get this from your company. Just ask your company, hey, I want to go to a training and I want to be certified, so I want this class here. Get me this class. in a basically a learning partner from Microsoft. And look, I'm sure you will ace it, okay? Because sometimes this is what you need. Sometimes you need other stuff. Not everyone learns at the same way, at the same pace. Just find your way, okay? Just basically find your way, find what works best for you, and go for that, okay? But there is one thing that I like to say that is common to everyone. And this is my last option to prepare, and it's called do. Get yourself in the Azure portal, PowerShell window, Azure CLI, ARM templates, whatever. Do stuff in an Azure subscription. If you don't have hands-on experience, I'm not saying that you will not pass. There are cases of people that pass. But what do you got? You got a badge, the exam. But then if I want that for you to do stuff, you're going to be like, yeah. And you don't even know how to navigate in the Azure portal. I will not hire you. So if I ask you, hey, create a VM with these specifications, etc., and then I'm going to shadow you and see you doing this, and you don't know how to do it, do you think you get a job? You're not going to get a job, okay? Or if you get a job because people don't test you, you're going to last what? A week, 2 weeks there? It doesn't worth it, right? This is why, for example, personally, I don't take certifications in areas that I don't do. Yeah, I could take the exam for fun and get it. Yeah, sure. But I have a huge respect for people that work like in Dynamics, like Julian, for example. I had some past experience in Dynamics, and I know there's a lot of things, and I know that is not my job. So I'm not going to take the certifications. I could take just for fun. Yeah, okay, let's see if I can pass and things like that, but that will be it, okay? Student resources, official courses, docs, Microsoft Learn, practice tests for Measure Up, the study guides. You have the link here, the study guides, and then, hey, just sign up for just schedule your exam, sit on the exam center or at home, and just take the exam. There are people that are going to talk about stuff on how to take the exam, so I don't want to basically go deep into this, but if you take it at home, just find a what I usually call a clean room, a room that doesn't have loads of screens like I have here and things like that. So usually my case, my office is, I don't take stuff here in the office because no proctor on the other side will allow me to take an exam here. I didn't even try it. I usually go to my living room where I don't have that many electronic stuff. I only have a TV. I cover the TV with a blanket. And basically I sit there in my table that I have a dining table there, and with a laptop with just one screen, and that's what I use to take the exams there. And usually they are pretty fine with it. I just need to show the plays, etc. Yeah, but never had a problem, never had, oh, you cannot have this or you cannot have that, etc. And find a place that is quiet, that you're not going to be interrupted, okay? But other people can tell you a little bit more on this. But basically, this is it. So thank you very much. My name is Tiago, and this is how you can get Azure.